Hello everyone, I'm so glad that you have started this series of the video of the SwiftUI Bootcamp. It shows that you want to learn all the things about the SwiftUI fundamentally. So you will become an expert at the end of this series of the Bootcamp. In today's video, we are going to talk about how you can use the Xcode, where to install it, what is the various resources to install the Xcode, and even if there is another approach to install it faster or not. Also, we are going to talk about how to create a new project for the SwiftUI, and also trying to learn about different aspects, different windows of the Xcode, and how we can use them and leverage them wisely inside our application while we are coding. So if you want to learn more about the SwiftUI, please subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon. So later on, when I'm creating a new videos for the SwiftUI Bootcamp, you will be notified and watch it at the very first time. So bear with me, I'm going to walk you through about each element inside the SwiftUI and teach you all the aspects fundamentally. Okay, now it's time to install Xcode inside your machine if you are not already have it. Because you are already a Mac user, you know that when you are going to install an application, you can use the App Store that already pre-installed inside your Mac system with your operation system. So you can just search the Xcode and you can have the Xcode here. Just click on the download or this cloud icon. This is because of your Apple ID. If you previously installed the Xcode, it will be like the cloud icon for you. The version of the Xcode that we currently trying to use is version 14.2. That is from the version 14, it is supporting the SwiftUI 4, which is the latest version. That's fine. But also you can access to the previous versions if you want, or even you can have access to the release candidate before it will be available inside the App Store by using the xcodereleases.com or even by using the developer.apple.com website. So with this kind of the website, you can download the Xcode separately before even it will be available inside the App Store. For this series of the SwiftUI Bootcamp, because we are trying to covering the basic things, we are not going talking about the release candidates or beta versions of the Xcode to check the Swift versions before it will be available inside the exact release of the Xcode, but to show you how you can install it even from other resources, not only from the App Store. I am just bringing up this website and also showing you can even download the Xcode from developer.apple.com/xcode/resources directly, not by using the App Store. You can just log into this website and using your Apple ID, username and password, and you can click on the download on each version of the Xcode you want. So it may be taking a little bit of time to download the Xcode and install it inside your application. After that, come back and I will describe to you how you can create a new project based on the Xcode and the SwiftUI. Okay, as soon as the Xcode installed and you click on the Xcode icon or open the application, you will be seeing such this window. As I said, we are going to covering the Xcode version 14.2, but it doesn't matter if you are going to watch this video later on because we are covering the whole SwiftUI 4 in this bootcamp. It will be available to the later releases of the Xcode application, so don't worry about that. As you can see, we have a bunch of options to create a new Xcode project, to clone it from the Git repository like as the GitHub, Bitbucket or other things, or even you can open a project or a file from your disk. For this video, we're just trying to create a new Xcode project. I click on that and this window will be appear in front of you. It will give us a bunch of options to create our application. Based on the operation system, it will be categorized it as the iOS, which means that it will be runnable on the iPhone and the iPad. And then we have the Mac OS, Watch OS, tvOS, and even we can create a driver for using inside other applications. But we are not covering it inside this video. As I said, the SwiftUI is so powerful, so we can create an application and it will be runnable on multi-platforms inside the Apple ecosystem. So if we click on the multi-platform, we have an application option here too. It means that if we code inside this project, all of them using the shared code base for using inside all the Apple hardware devices. For this video, we are going to just using the iOS that will be covering the iPhone as iPad, and click on the app for creating a new project. But you can have the augmented reality, the game, or even other kind of stuffs here. So we click on the app and it will be ask us the product name. So we are going to create a bootcamp series here. So I'm going to call it as the Swift UI Bootcamp, and for the theme I will call it as the none right now. Later on, when you are trying to release an application to the App Store, or you are going to work for an organization and creating an app for them, you have to specify your theme here. But for now, for the sake of this video, we are not going to release this app to the App Store because it's just a bootcamp. So I just leave it as the none here. But a short description, if you want to create an app as the individual and trying to release it to the App Store, you have to enroll in the developer program membership for the Apple. It will cost you $99 per year. And then you can select your individual developer program here and creating your application. Then in the organizational identifier, as you can see, normally it's started with the com and then the organization name. So it just picked my name as the organization. That's perfectly fine. And then whatever we want to cover after it. For example, because this is a learning section, maybe we can actually add the learning after that. So this is up to you, definitely. I'm just cleaning it back to the original one that Xcode suggested to us. And then we just come back to the bundle identifier. This is the unique ID of your application. When you are releasing an app to the App Store, it means that it should have the unique identifier to actually specify it from the other applications in the App Store. So it will be just using our organization identifier and our product name as the sample. I just put it as a default. Then we have the interface here. Because we are going to use the SwiftUI, I just put it as a SwiftUI, and the language definitely going to be Swift. Because we are just going to covering the basic fundamentals related to the SwiftUI, I'm not going to check the core data, which is the database for our app, and not going to do any testing purposes for our application. So now click on the next. It will just ask us where to create the folder of this application. Desktop is fine for us. I just hit the create button and it will be create the whole application as the template for us. Okay, let me make it a little bit bigger so you guys can see it very smoother. As soon as we create the project, it will be load a preview and also load a bunch of template files and folders for us. I'm going to move each section one by one. So on the middle screen, as you can see, we have two parts. One part related to the code and one related to the preview. And that is so cool from the SwiftUI because it shows that whatever you type or changing the code on the left side, it will be show itself on the right side on the canvas. Now it is set to the iPhone 14 Pro, and if you want to see, for example, our UI in the different version of the iPhone, for example, maybe I'm going to select the iPhone SE, another type of the shape of the iPhones, for example, it will be creating that view specifically for that hardware that we selected. Okay, as you can see, it changed everything here. Now we are on the iPhone SE and you can see it very fast. And this is so cool because at the previous versions, when you are trying to using the UIKit framework, when you change something in your code and you want to see how it will be look like, you have to build the whole application and test it on the simulator or on the real device to see, okay, if there is anything okay with the UI change that I did or not. And it will be a time consumption. So it will be so good when you are trying to save time and code very fast. So on the left side, we have the navigator that actually showing you all the folders and assets inside your application. Right now we are on the content view file. As you can see, here is content view selected and we have the content view file here, structure. We will cover it later. And also what caused this preview to be shaped here is this small structure that we have underneath of the content view. As you can see, it is a type of the preview provider. It means that whatever class or structure conform to the preview provider, after all the delegation methods actually conform to that, it will be appear here. So we have the content view inside our preview provider, and inside the content view we have a bunch of the code that cause this UI for us. So inside our content view, as you can see, we have a bunch of codes here. We have the text hello world, the same as we have it here. If I click on the text, on the right side you have an inspector that show you what elements or what kind of modifiers this text that I'm just selected here has. For example, I can click on the font here and select, for example, the title. As you can see, a code actually change happen and add a dot font, dot title underneath of the text, and as soon as it happened, the text here update itself and it will be using the title font and the UI responds to that and we can see it very quickly. I'm just showing you how it is going to give us some sort of the benefits when we are using this inspector here, but later on we are going to just type the font, the title or whatever we want here. We are not going to use this inspector. This inspector is so good when we are actually learning stuff, or as a beginner we want to see what kind of the modifiers it will be provided for us. But for example, if I want to show you, if I delete this font, I can type it even by myself as a font dot, for example, now I'm going to use the headline. As you can see, it will be changed itself too. Or even for the image, we can change the size or the frame, whatever we want. So later we are going to discuss about what kind of the component we have inside the SwiftUI step by step. For example, we have the text, we have the shape, we have the colors, we have so much components. But if you are not familiar with each component, we can actually use that or grab them like this. I just delete the text here, and if you click on the plus icon on the right, top right, it will be show you, if I click on this button, it will show you all the components that will be available, and there is a sample to how to use that. So for example, I want to put back the text here. So if I click on the text component here, it show me how I can use that with a little structure and description about it. And if I double click on that, it will be appear exactly at was our cursor actually be. So you can see now the text here, and also the view responds to that and it will refresh itself. So for the beginners, if you don't know what kind of the component it's available for you, you can just click on the plus button here and it will be automatically added for you. So if I want to describe other things here, you can see the SwiftUI Bootcamp app. The app at the end of that added itself by Xcode. It means that when the Xcode trying to start your project, it will be referring to this specific file, because when you see the code, it started with the @main on the top of the struct. It means that this is the main structure of your application. For the sake of the simplicity, we are not going to covering the window group or scene like for this video. Later on, we are going to describe it. But as you can see, inside the window group, we have our content view. It means that as soon as the app is started, it will be created the content view at the first screen for your UI. So if you see another blue icon on the top as your application name, if you click on that, it will give you a bunch of whole options to be changed as your application setting. We are not going to cover all of them. There are a lot to cover, but the most important part that I can actually start with that, the minimum deployments target. Because we are going to support and code in the SwiftUI 4 version, and the SwiftUI 4 version is going to be supported from iOS 16, I'm going to put it as the iOS 16. iOS 16 just released with the iPhone 14, and it is so good because now the SwiftUI 4 is kind of the major, and it is so powerful from this version. So I just suggest you to using the iOS 16 for this bootcamp. Then we can see that we have the identity section as the app category. If you want to add it, it is the new feature from the App Store. Before we have to add it inside our App Store panel, but now we can actually specify it here too. There's another button, another field here, sorry, as a display name. So we call our application SwiftUI Bootcamp, but there is a pretty long name. So this display name appear underneath of your icon on the desktop of the iPhones. You see that there is an icon, and underneath of each icon there is a name. So if you want to put everything as the name of your application, we have to specify it here as a display name. So I'm just type it as the Swift Academy. And this is the bundle identifier. We describe it about it. We talked about it before, as it is just a unique identifier for your application. Then we have the versioning. Let me a little bit talk about the versioning system. Usually the versioning system should be 3 sections. Each one has its own specifications. I just leave it to you to search the internet for what is the meaning of the versionings. But you can see we have the build here and the version tied together. So each time we are implementing a feature or for example, adding something to our application, we have to increment our version number. But what is the build here? So we know that we are developing the version, for example, 1.0.1. We are developing it and just passing it to our QA inside our team to test our application. And then they found some bug and then returning back to you, and you want to give them another version. So you just simply have to increase this build number because the version is the same, and you can just increasing the build number. And on each version, you can keep the previous build number, or even you can update it as well, or you can reset it from the 0 for each version. This is this version and build number. There is a whole thing about it. You can actually search through the internet and to find the best approaches for the version and build number. Then we have the deployment info. It is about how your phone can respond to the rotation. For example, how your application will be respond to the rotation of the phone. So if the iPhone orientation set to the portrait and the iPad orientation set to just portrait like that, your application, it is going to just be as the portrait. If you turn your phone, it will be not react to the this orientation, It will not create another UI. It will be tied to the portrait. But if you want to support the landscape left or right, or even the upside down, you have to tick it on the check mark here. Then we have the app icon. So you remember that we have the display name, and it will be appear underneath of the app icon. But where we have to set the app icon, it is in the assets folder. But where is the assets folder? If you see on the left side, we have the assets here. If you click on the assets, it will be show you a bunch of options too. So if you click on the app icon, you can just pass an image or as a PNG or as a JPEG to this app icon, and it will be create and generate all the aspect ratios that your application needs for the app icon. So now all the basic settings and options that set, we are ready to start our bootcamp course now. So I hope that you up to now you enjoy how Xcode install and how actually we can use the Xcode. And in the next video, I'm going to talk about how you can use this kind of the components inside your application and creating an app from scratch, and what are the modifiers that will be appear underneath of each component. So if you liked this video up to now and you want to find out how you can create your application fundamentally and be an expert as an iOS developer, subscribe to this video and hit that bell icon. I will come back with a lot of videos related to the SwiftUI Bootcamp. Until the next time, see you soon.